Do you know what is worse than like a super duper lowball offer? Fees that you didn't even realize were a thing. And now you're at the closing table and you're like, wait, I got to pay how much more money? These are the hidden costs of selling your home. And today, that's what I'm going to talk about because they will sneak up on you slowly. So stay tuned. We're going to get right into it. Hey, I'm Christa Coore-Powell, your Atlanta Property Pro, and I help Fulton County homeowners sell their house without too much stress, with ease, and getting the most bang for your buck. Now, if you're thinking about selling this year, wait till the end. I'll have a little guide for you that can help you break down some of these other costs that come with selling your house. And no, I'm not just talking about commissions. There's way more to it than that. So the first thing we're going to talk about are buyer incentives. So these are going to be the costs that you will pay towards helping the buyer be able to get into the house. And that's not always a part of your initial budget because maybe after they did their inspection, some, costs may come up, some repairs, some fixes. This is another reason why I always recommend doing a pre-listing inspection, because what the pre-listing inspection is going to help you do is anticipate those costs and prepare yourself so that you know what people may or may not ask for. And it'll also give you a little bit more negotiation power when going into figuring out what's the pricing of the home, because you are not walking in blind. So you want to do that pre-listing inspection. So what we're talking about on average is about 2% of the cost of the home. So if we're talking a house that's about $341,000, which is a little bit below the current average price, and at 2% of that sale price, that is $6,820. So you have to think out of your equity that you're pulling from that home is going to be another 6,000. You're going to have to take out rather $6,820. All right. So my tip is do that pre-listing inspection and then make some offers that are only necessary. Obviously, things like mold, you're going to want to take care of in the way that makes the most sense, right? And that's why you have an agent. Get some advice. We can talk about these things ahead of time before we list the property so you know what the game plan is. So you have a much clearer idea of how much you're actually going to be walking away with. Okay, so the next thing people don't think about are your property taxes. So in general, for Fulton County, that's about 0.74% of the county estimated value, right? And so if you think about that same home we were talking about, that's 341,000, guys, me and numbers sometimes. That's about 2,523 if you sell your home. Now, the earlier you sell your home in the year, the fewer of those that you are going to have to pay, or the less of that rather you're going to have to pay, because it's prorated over the course of the year. Meaning if you sell your house in November, you're paying most of it, you're paying 11 months worth, versus if you sell your house in February, now you're only paying 2 months worth. So it can be better for you and a way to save a little bit of money, depending on, how much your property taxes are, by selling your home earlier in the year. If you sell it month 6, 50-50 split, right? So that's another thing you want to keep in mind. Okay, so the next thing are going to be the title services and the owner's title insurance. You always want to pay for title insurance. And in Fulton County, sellers are paying about a little under $2,000, maybe around $1,900 on average for those two fees together. It's not a fee that you can avoid. Even if you're going to be selling by owner, you're still going to have to pay those fees. That's just what the county gets for moving the title and doing the research on the title to make sure that it's legit. You can shop around a little bit by shopping for a different closing attorney, but there's not going to be some huge variation in that. And this is a must do. There's no avoiding paying for this one. Next up, you're going to have your attorney fees. So in the state of Georgia, if you are purchasing property that is in the state of Georgia, you are going to be paying for a closing attorney, because Georgia is what's called an attorney state. There's some states like Florida that do not require an attorney for the closing and transfer of title for a property. However, in Georgia, we do. So you're looking anywhere from $500 to $1,500. And that is going to be paying for their time to ensure that the process is done properly, all the documents are taken care of, and all the fun stuff. Now, you can, and I always recommend, ask your agent who they've worked with, who they like. I would say be sure that the attorney has the tools in place to protect your identity and your information, because that's really the only time where I think with an attorney things can get kind of sketchy, is that if they go out of business next week, where's your stuff, and they keep a record of certain things. So if there is, for example, a question with a title 2 years from now, maybe something to do with the property line, and you didn't save all your thingies, that might get kind of weird. So it's helpful to have an attorney who has a nice record of everything that happened at closing. So that's something else to keep in mind. Next up, so finally, we have transfer tax. Transfer tax in Georgia is $1 for the first $1,000 of your home's value, and then 10 cents for each additional $100. So on a $341,000 home, that is $341. I can math sometimes. Now, this fee is generally paid by the seller, but remember, almost anything in a real estate contract can be negotiated. So if you're looking at a cash offer and maybe they're lowballing you a little bit, you may be able to negotiate something like who's paying for the transfer tax, just to get a little bit more money back out of the equity that you're going to get from the sale of that property. So there we have it. Those were the 5 hidden fees that people often don't think about. So we're thinking about buyer incentives, prorated property taxes, title costs, attorney fees, and the transfer fees, transfer taxes. If you want a full breakdown of every single cost, from staging to moving expenses, you can grab my free seller cost guide below, and that will help you break everything down. It's a nice sheet that you can fill out. You can do all the math yourself. And if you're planning to sell in Atlanta and want to keep more of your equity and money at closing, if you're planning to sell in Atlanta and you want to keep more of your equity at closing and have a better idea of how much you're walking away with, feel free to schedule a talk with me, and we can definitely do a little planning into what makes sense for you. And also, don't forget to ask any questions you got below, and subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye.